Hey everybody, this is Fifth Shadow with the Fifth Kingdom, and I want to welcome you to this video of our walkthrough series. This is the third video currently. In the first video, we went through what it looks like to hire an NFT, which is the same thing as minting or purchasing your NFT. In the second video, we discussed how the household works, how the mechanics of the Lord, the companions, and the revealing of the artwork all works inside your household. But what I did not cover in that video, which is what we're going to cover today, is why did I choose the NFTs that I chose? So you'll see here I have my primary Lord as the rare NFT. And I had 5 NFTs that I chose as my companions. And that left me actually with 2 NFTs left over. One of them was a rare. Why would I not have used my rare? And why did I choose a common NFT over a rare? Why would I do that? Well, this video we're going to discuss all of the decision points that I made, all of this strategy. There's a lot of questions on how does strategy actually work? Why is an NFT worth more than the other NFT? And in this video, I'm going to show you how a common can actually be worth more strategically than even a rare NFT, all based on your household, based on the positioning of the NFTs, and based on your strategy. And you'll notice in this video all the different decisions that I had to go through to make this. And remember, these NFTs were minted and revealed live, so I could not influence the outcome. It just so happens that I got an outcome that really caused me to have to make a lot of different strategic decisions. As you see this video, and as you go through, you'll see all the different decisions I had to make, and then you'll notice how the more NFTs you have, the greater your strategic options open up, and that's going to influence how your household can be built from your primary Lord all the way down to all of your 5 individual companion slots, and how having some NFTs left over can even influence your decision even more. So we are going to begin, and we're going to begin with the very first NFT that we have in our companion slot, and we're going to go from there. So this is a common companion. This is your base of 1%. You'll also see here elite mining. This is the secondary trait right down here. So what you have up here is your base discovery rate. So if this NFT was placed in your Lord position, your discovery rate base would be 1%. If you placed this NFT in your companion position, you would be seeing a 0.2% increase on your discovery rate. For example, let's say we had 3% as our base discovery rate. If I came and placed this specific NFT as a companion, that would then increase it to 3.2. Okay, and now let's look at the next NFT that we revealed. So this is an uncommon. First we rolled a common. Most likely going to roll a common, but you could roll an uncommon, and you can see we just so happen to get the same secondary trait of 0.2, but this has a base discovery rate of 2%. So here's a good example that I can now give you. If I were theoretically to place this uncommon NFT in my Lord position, my base discovery rate would be 2%. If I then came and placed this common NFT in my companion position, it would increase it by 0.2, equaling 2.2. Lord plus companion. Okay, so that should make sense. This is a common as well. Now you'll notice our secondary trait here is guild favor at 2%. So that's a 2% reduction in fees. So now if I was to use all 4 of these, just to continue the example that we're going with, I would have a base discovery rate of 2%. And then I'd have 3 companions. This first one here on the far left would increase my base discovery rate from 2% to 2.2%. This companion would reduce my fees by 1%, and this common companion would reduce my fees by 2%. So I'd have a 3% reduction in fees and a 2.2% discovery rate. That's my current household if I was to use all 4 of these. Okay, so I'm hoping this is starting to click a little bit and make a little bit more sense. You'll see, look at this guy. First of all, I got to zoom in on this artwork. The artwork is phenomenal. I keep saying that, but it really is. Just so you know, I want to point something out once I show you this new NFT. I like this guy's pipe. Look at those eyes. You'll notice it's a bit of an upgrade from the common NFT. It just looks a little different, right? We even have different backgrounds. I think we've rolled the same background 3 times. So you'll notice the background is like the woods. We've rolled that 4 times, excuse me, but you notice this one has a different background. There's actually many different backgrounds. We've just happened to roll the same background a few times. We have a uncommon, another uncommon. So currently we have 2 uncommons, 3 commons. Look at the pipe. Isn't that great? But I wanted to mention something about the artwork really quick. This is not AI slop. This is not even flat. So our lead artist, Anna, she actually created these in layers. This background is separate, human is separate, the hair is separate, the clothing is separate, face is separate, attachments such as the pipe, the jewelry, it's all individualized. So a lot of people will create flat images. No. Each one of these are individually designed. It was phenomenal work. She's very talented. But one thing I want to mention is you'll notice on the previous uncommon we got a 0.4%. Now this is where strategy starts to play in. I'm going to show you this as we're rolling these. This is going to make a little more sense. So you notice how this is an uncommon at 2%. This is an uncommon at 2%. However, you'll notice this has a secondary trait as 0.4. This has a secondary trait at 0.2. So question, which one would be better to place as a lord and which one of these would be better to place as a companion? I want you to think about that for a brief moment. They have the exact same discovery rate, but one has more of a higher secondary trait. It's not a trick question. So this one right here, the woman, the uncommon, would be better to place as, and of course this is your decision. I want to give you an idea how this strategy actually works now that you're seeing it live. This would be better as a lord because it's still 2%, but this guy would be better as a companion because he would take that from 2 to 2.4 down here. So you could get up to 0.5. So this is actually one of the best secondary traits you could have, one of the best. So even though he's uncommon, his secondary trait is phenomenal. And then of course the one we just rolled here has a reduction of 4% on fees. Again, one of the best secondary traits you could have. Continue with our example. If we placed this NFT as our lord, we get 2% base discovery rate. This companion to the left as a companion would be 0.2. That would bring us to 2.2. If we staked this uncommon NFT as another companion, that would take us from 2.2 to 2.6. Okay, and then if we placed this, and this one here as companions as well, we would have a grand total of a 7% reduction in fees. Because you could see 4, you can see 2, you can see 1. So now we have some choices to make, don't we? This is a rare at 3% base discovery rate with a 2% reduction in fees. This is a rare at 3% discovery rate, because all the rares are, with a 0.1 increase in fees. Then we've got a common at 1% with a 4% reduction. We have an uncommon with a 0.4, common with 0.2, uncommon with 0.2, and then two commons with 1% and 2% a reduction in fees. So we have some decisions to make, and I rolled 8 because I want to show you how these decisions can create strategy. So let's look at this. So now that we have, by the way, beautiful artwork again. You could tell the rares are a step up in the art. You should see the legendaries and the mythics. They are amazing, amazing artwork. Okay, so let's look at this. This is going to create some strategy now, okay? As you roll these, the strategy sort of develops. I created 8 so that we would have some decision points to make. So in this example, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing, is I have a rare. Obviously, look, the highest base discovery rate is what I want to use as my primary lord. In this case, because I have 2 rares, I have to make some decisions. The decision is going to come down to whether I choose to maybe sell one of these on the secondary market. That's an option. Or if I want to use them. So I look at the secondary trait. This is a guild favor of 2%. This is an increase in your discovery rate of 0.1. That's not that great because if you look over here, I have an increase in my discovery rate of 0.4, and even a common has a 0.2. So that doesn't really attract me to have 0.1 much. So in this example, what I would do is if I wanted to stake, and again, even if you look at the second rare, the guild favor is at 2. Well, I already have a guild favor of 4 over here. So that's, again, I'm not going to stake this as my companion. It just doesn't quite make sense. So since they're both 3%, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place this as my lord. This makes the most sense to me because it's a base discovery rate of 3%. That's the highest that I have. And because the secondary trait down here is not better than any of the other ones that I have. Now, we have some decisions to make. Again, now we have to decide what do we want to put in our supporting positions. I could put up to 5. This is where the strategy is going to come into play. Now, the only thing we want to pay attention to here is the traits on the bottom, the secondary traits, not the discovery rate, because that doesn't apply in the secondary positions. Only the secondary traits apply as companions. So the very first thing that's catching my attention, the most obvious one to me, is the 0.4 that we rolled, because I don't have a 0.4 increase in my discovery rate anywhere else. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 0.4. So as we come in here, this is to show how strategy could play out. So if I look at this, I'm thinking, okay, what's the next thing that I would want to add? The next thing I want to add is I'm going to continue looking at the increase in discovery rates, because I want to max out my discovery rates before I even start looking at a reduction in fees. So in this example, I noticed I have two NFTs that have 0.2 and a 0.2. I'm going to use them all up because that's only 3 slots in my companion area, and I can still add 2 more in total once I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to select this next uncommon. And this is where, for example, a common can actually be worth more than a rare based on your strategy, because 2% reduction in fees, I might consider selling this on the open market instead. But we'll get into that in just a brief moment, just to hang with me here. So let me finish this out. And after we've applied those 3 companions, you can see they've boosted my Lord's discovery rate from 3% to 3.8%, because the first one was 0.4, the second one was 0.2, and the third one was also 0.2, for a grand total at this point with 1 Lord and 3 companions of 3.8%. You can see that now it has increased from 3 to 3.8% in my household screen. That's how the companions in their secondary positions can be strategically placed to increase your discovery rate, reduce fees, or some combination of all the above. Now, I could continue doing this if I wanted until I hit 5%. So if I just happen to get, let's just say, for example, if I said, you know what, because these are locked for 45 days, I have a decision to make. I could use what I have, or I could go on the open market. This is assuming that we're at mint out, or beyond mint out rather, and these are available on the open market. I could go and buy some NFTs that I don't care about the discovery rate, but I care about the secondary trait. And maybe what I want to do is I want to find a increase of 0.5. That's actually what I'm looking for. So I go to the open market and I find NFTs. Doesn't matter if they're common, uncommon, legendary, rare, mythic. I only care about the secondary trait. So now there's a whole different strategy and a whole different reason for buying an NFT. It doesn't have to just be the primary reason. It could be the secondary reason as well. And if I add both of those, then what could happen is I could then increase by 0.5 for 1%. This could bring me up to 4.8, almost at the max. So you can see how strategy now plays in. Because all of my remaining NFTs only have reduction in fees, I now have some decisions to make. So the most obvious decision is, because I have 3 commons and 1 rare, I kind of want to leave this decision for last for the rare. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and I'm going to see, okay, the rare has a guild favor, a fee reduction of 2%, but the common has a fee reduction of 2% as well. And this has a reduction of 4%. So I'm clearly going to choose this one. It's the most likely decision in this situation. We have 1 remaining position. Let's strategize. This is where, because remember, each companion is locked for 45 days. So we have some decisions to make. We have a rare at a 2%. We're looking at the traits down here. We have a common at 2% reduction in fees, and we have a common at 1% reduction in fees. The reason I'm going to choose the common, not the rare, is because this is a more rare NFT, clearly. That's why it's called rare. If it was a legendary or even a uncommon or a mythic, of course, it would be significantly more rare than a common NFT would be rolling it. So what I'm going to do is, because they have the exact same secondary trait, I'm going to choose the common. I'm going to leave these 2, and maybe I could go start a secondary household. I could send them to another wallet, and maybe I just go start another household. Or I sell these on the open market. This is just strategy I'm giving you. This doesn't mean you have to do this. You could just hold on to these and wait 45 days. So you could see, the more NFTs you have, the more open your strategy, the more decisions you have to make. And the greater your strategy can be because you have more decisions to make. There's a lot of strategy here. The more NFTs you have, the greater your strategy. And I now had 8 NFTs to where I made a decision of which to place where. I showed you strategy on how to select a lord, how to select companions, what it means to have a lord and to have companions, and how their primary and their secondary traits all play in to the power of your household. And this is the strategy of the 5th kingdom, your household, your NFTs, your lords, and your companions.